Hello, we've got a double O gauge ModelocoLift layout update. We've got some block detection basics for TT and double O's. Back up here to end within Shiredale as I take my Magna Rail Triumph Bonneville down to the bush inn for a pint to watch the trains go by. But first, we need to go down there. The sun is out, the sky is blue, it's beautiful, and so are you. Dear Prudence. Hi, my name's Andy, this is my channel Modeloco for all things model railway. Look what I've just found, my CR, and my intro needs a bit more of a summer feel, a bit more of a Yorkshire feel too, so I've come up with this. I hope you like it. It's more succinct. Now, one thing they'll always tell you, you can never have enough space when you model railway. Before you tell me it wasn't me, it certainly blooming was, and it could have been. Love me do? Right, let's get this place tidied up, eh? Clean start, spring clean. Well, we got Clegg, Foggy and Compo on the screen just to show you it's all going to connect with the shed down there. And whew, what a day it's been today. It's been scorching hot, and yeah, I've had a bit of a break in between and sat in the garden, but got Loft House and Shiredale, of course, TT 120 mid between, Loft House above. But this side of the layout is going to be for those lazy hazy days of summer, and also for displaying my double O collection as well. This button here is permanently lit to show me that I've got power to the whole unit. I can also raise it up and the lights go on independently of that. We can see that they're all double tracked. There's 10 shelves, so it's going to hold 20 locomotives. It did have tracks on here, and it goes through a 5-inch hole in the wall at this end, right up to the shed at that end. There's a turning circle beyond the shed that I've built. So this is what I've got at the moment. Comes round and back in. Could eventually go around that way as well. It's supported, metal struts and some good fence posts. On the wall, a peppermint plant in the middle of that, stood up for, it's been up for a good year or so now. It's doing really well. I haven't even got the track on it yet, but I will be doing. That's going to bring the trains back down. Now, I'm still debating whether to have a turning circle here, but at the moment they're going to pull and push sort of thing. iTrain's going to be sort of based around here on a stand. It's going to connect to this TV, and then there's a HDMI cable that runs, now fitted this door. This all had to be stripped down and made separately, but it's been well worth it. Some nice rounded corners, and then the piece that I chopped out obviously would have left a gap, so I glued on 3.5mm with a magnetic bracket here just to hold that door, and there's no light bleed. And a bit more piano hinging and get the right screws. And I put a backboard as well, and the hoover's in there at the moment. And I can add anything else in there that I want to onto that board at a later date. I'm not screwing into the wall. This is a HDMI extender. It's a powered unit, so you just turn it on and off, and it has a little LED to show it's powered up, and then that sends the signal via a cat cable down to your other screen. Right down into the shed, which can be a long way away. If we go garden, the cabling all the way up, and then into the shed, and on here, we should now see in place that we've got iTrain on the screen here, plumbed in electrically through the top, so there's no wires hanging down here, double plug board on the back, and all the connections that I've used for the dropper wires on the 2 tracks coming into the shed, I've used these connectors, 1.5 to 2.5mm and 0.5 to 1.5mm. I've used more of those than those, but both come in handy. And they're just like car connectors. You can buy them very cheaply, and then covered them just to make them weather tight with some of this tape. So we'll see how we go with that. Just enough space up top so I can get the TV off easily. Some more point and accessory decoders here that I'm going to be using at the moment. There's the HDMI lead, and that's all tucked down the bottom side of the fence. Of course, once we come up here, we know we come in the shed. And we've looked at this before. Now I've got it all nice and clean. This is going to be a bit of a riverbed. We're going to come round here. That's then going out to the turning circle I've just shown you. A little bit of discrepancy in the boards, so it just doesn't look all flat. Then we've got the back seams here that are going to be on these boards, all nicely put in. And then we've got all down here as well. I think I've shown in other videos. I'm looking forward to it. And then this is going to come down into a station for now. The other thing that I've now got and sorted out are the track aligners, which I've designed and made myself. As the shelves are made of timber, there is some slight discrepancy, even though I've drilled the hole spot on. They can bend a little bit. So these just take up that extra alignment. I did write to Peco and I put all this track in right down in the shed, and I said, if you supply me with TT track, I'll turn it all to TT. I'm glad I didn't now, really, because I've got to line all these tracks up. I've taken these tracks up now, I've tested it, because I wanted to put in some boards here, which are 3.5mm thick. So once these are going up and down, if anything did get caught in there, these would snap off before it wrenched the shelf or broke it or broke any fingers, and these break off at this end. And there's a good 1.5 inches, 2 inches behind here, and I know when there's power on. That's why I've left that glowing blue all the time, just to warn me, and then it can be all knocked off. Some tracks will be on this side and some tracks will be on that. There's some caps that I've cut out here which fit in here, and the one outside I've profiled it to the track so it's a nice snug fit. You still get the odd spider in. I found one today when I was cleaning up, but that being said, it's really clear. Under the track, the rest of the 5-inch hole takes all the wiring from the block detection, which is all down here. And there's some block detection in the far end as well for the shed end, which is the Goathland end. This is the Pickering end. At the moment, things can change, but that's what I've got in mind. I like the fact that I've painted that blue now. It just lights it up a little bit. Everything tucks in, so the first shelf sits exactly level. And the last shelf, when that's fully to the top, it again matches this shelf. So on shelf 4, I've got a few carriages in here just to show you it. And also what I've built in as well, and thanks to DCC Train Automation for their help last year, I wanted a way of isolating these tracks when they're not lined up. And you'll see it stops automatically at shelf 10 and automatically flush at shelf 1. These lights have been let into here so they don't catch the locomotives or the coaches at all. They were doing slightly on some of the shelves. It was so close. It was the end caps that were catching. So I had to strip it all down and route them out and just sink them in. But we've got a nice 18mm thickness here. The other thing it was doing as well was rocking a bit, not vertically, laterally. So what I've done is use 3D printing frames and bearings to hold the whole frame in, and it's worked really well. It was a bit of a leap of faith. I just went into it, invested the money, got all the wood cut and thought, go for it. Just like I did with TT120. And I'd literally just got all this built and TT120 came on the market. That's why I was stood in front of this. I had 2 subscribers and now I've got 2,500. So it's not that bad. What is it, a year and a half? So I got at this end. I wanted a way to isolate each shelf when it's not in line to run, because you don't want trains automatically setting off while it's up here or while it's down here. What I'm using is some photo cells, and they've been wired in as well. There's going to be a magnet under this shelf here. So as soon as the photo cell sees the magnet, it tells shelf 10 it can go live. When it goes down to shelf 9, it tells shelf 9 it can go live, and so on and so forth. That's about it, I think, for this end, and that's what I like about iTrain. It's Mac compatible, where HMDCC is iPad and iPhone compatible. Let's have a look at the gubbins. So just bring it back down. I've got all the wiring looms going up and down with it, and there's a lot of wiring in the back of there, and I'll show you some photographs of that. And it took a while to get all that right, and at times you do feel like you're going a bit crazy, but once you're in it, I don't know whether you're the same as me, but once I get in my box, I get very focused. And then when I'm out of my box, I can get very lapsadaisical. As I said earlier in the video, the best way to get back into something, if you're feeling that real, it's just, there's so much to do and I just can't be bothered, just go and clear some space. Just make space. And that way, you've got a good head start. And I'm telling you, it's the best tonic, especially on a day like this. And once it goes cooler, yeah, I can go in the loft. On a rainy day, I can go in the loft. I could even put Perspex canopies over the rail, but I don't know any that are cheap enough. They're all like cake stand canopies, and they're really expensive for like 2-3 meter lengths. I couldn't go with that, so what I have used is some really deep guttering. And had I gone TT120, the locos would have gone down. Now, one loco would go down the deep guttering, but two, they just catch. It is really a dry day sort of layout at present. We'll see what happens in the future, but I've got enough layouts in play that I can hop between them. And I like having that contrast. The only downside is sometimes you can get a bit bogged down with all the stuff that there is to do. And I don't know about you on this as well. Once you leave something, you forget where you were. So you need a couple of hours to get back into it again, don't you? When you've left it for 6 months or 2 months or 3-4 weeks, you think, did I wire those tracks in for block detection or didn't I? Can't remember. And the more complex your layout is, the more you've got to get back into it. But when I look at it again, I get it lifted up and I get it vac down and have a little bit of a look. And I'm going to seal all this as well, round the bottom and up the sides so spiders and little bugs can't get in. Make sure it's completely sealed, so when them trains are under there, they're nice and safe. And out of all 3 layouts, can you tell me which do you think gets the most dust? Shiredale, Loft House, in the loft, or down here on Goathland? And it is Shiredale because I'm in that room more often, it creates more dust. Problem with the shed, you're always going to get spiders, and of course you're always going to have to clean that track down when you're running outside, but it is kept really clean. Once I've done with it, I can just bring those down, plug the ends, and away we go. Okay, another brew, because that's thirsty work doing all that talking. And as you see, the size of the screen, and I can pull that screen out. It's on like a swivel. So when I'm using iTrain, I can swivel this way when I'm watching a film or something. I watch very little TV. Now, I don't watch BBC at all, and I don't watch television. I only used to watch Netflix, and we've cancelled that because I'm watching more YouTube and being more creative because of it. That's on the upswing. I'd just like my laddo to get involved a little bit more. He's out camping at the moment. He's just in the middle of nowhere and he's lit a great fire. I might put the photograph on to show you. So I'm really happy he's enjoying that, doing his wild camping, tarping and stuff like that. But yeah, we all do different things, don't we? So there's still a bit of work to do behind here. The lift mechanism, I'm really happy with it. Self-designed and everything else. And I can go into that. If I ever do a bit of a members site, I'll go into all the design. I'll put all the drawings up. But if it ever gets asked for, whether it will or not, I don't know. And thank you for looking at the community post as well when I asked about taking sponsorship deals or doing reviews for people, and I'm still on the fence about that. You know, it's early days. I like to be unscripted. I like to give my own opinion. Enough said. Right, I'll show you down here. This is like a swiveling board, and there's 2 gangs. So it does lift off, does this piece, and I've made it so it does. And when that comes off like that, this is going to have all the accessory decoders on. And I had a lot of Ormby ones from Loft House, so I've used them. And we'll see how we go with them, see what they're like. And then behind that, there's another lift-off section that I've already lifted off the hook, so to speak.
Okay, let's have a look at this board. And all these 6 units daisy chain together with the other units in the shed. And whether the Digikeijs or Yamorc, they're basically the same thing, although the Yamorc ones are going to have a little bit of updated tech in them and a bit better electronics, I'd say, on the upside. So the Digikeijs DR4088LNCS Loconet has now been replaced with Yamorc YD6016LN because Digikeijs has now gone bust. There was a bit of a falling out, I think, between the developers or something, and Digikeijs was going to go on its own, but it has since ceased trading from the latest information that I have available. And Yamorc is very up and coming. There are many variations of Digikeijs units, and there are many variations of the Yamorc ones. If you see the Digikeijs units being sold, I'd advise you not to get them because there won't be a warranty with them if anything were to go wrong, unless you can come to some agreement with whoever sells you them. So if you wanted them repaired, they're not covered anymore, where obviously Yamorc ones will be. There's a cheaper version of this if you don't want to have the extra plugs and things on the end, but I wanted the same version. That is the exact replacement that I needed. So what is block detection then? In layman's terms, I'll try and do it using a bit of paper. And yeah, I'm back up here in Shiredale, so we'll get the hat off and have a look at it. Let me try and draw an oval track. I'm using this little model here that I haven't opened yet. It looks very nice, by the way. So I've got an oval track, roughly drawn. And seeing as we've got that little bit of pen going off there, we've got a curve point there. And that can be going off to a siding, and we might have another point here, going off to another siding or a platform or whatever. Now, we have a train. We'll use the red pen, a train here. Yeah, that can be our train. So red, train, blue, track. When we're looking down with our own eyes, we can clearly see where the train is. You switch your points and you drive your train. But with a computer, it hasn't got eyes, it hasn't got ears. So we've got to give it eyes and ears and senses. The way we do that is using block detection. Now, the real railways use block detection as well. But to briefly explain, I'm going to take my green pen now. We're going to isolate the points, right? So they're in their own block. Now we want to know where the train is. So I'm going to split this siding maybe into 2 blocks, maybe even 3. I'll tell you for why in a minute. This other siding, it's a shorter siding, so it comes into here and we've just made a small block after this. Then the rest of the track, I might split up into blocks like this. Yeah, voila. So now these are the blocks, and I might want to label these blocks. So I could label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I might even want to label these. I'll put them in a different colour because the points. 13 and 14. And so all the block detection units are doing are wiring in to these blocks. There's 2 rails on each track, and there's different ways of doing this, but usually I will put a dropper wire down and various dropper wires from one rail. If I draw the track from a front view, you can see I'll drop one wire off, and that will, all wires that I drop will just go together like a dropper or a dropper feed wire. And on this one, this is the one that goes for detection. So that'll probably be a red wire that will go to your detection. You can choose whichever one you want, as long as you always make them the same. So these go to the blocks, block detection units. We'll make that detection unit purple. Yeah, not that you can tell. So they're your detection units. So they go to the detection unit, which then tells iTrain through the command station where your train is. When there's a dropper wire and a detection wire, and all that is feeding the track like it normally would for DCC, but these wires are going through these units, and these units pick up current. So it will be able to see that the train is in this block. It's in block 9. And as it moves into block 8 and crosses over, both will light up and then go different colours. And that's basically how it works. So yeah, do you get what I'm saying? So this wire then goes to your command station and out to your computer. Yeah? And it's running a wire through that. That'll be USB, via USB. So that's how it basically works. And that's how the computer then and iTrain can analyse where everything is. And that's my rough idea on block detection. And the more detection points you've got on your layout, the more chance iTrain has at stopping your locomotives and your trains more accurately. You can see now why at the end of the sidings I've put that little extra small block in, because I can instantly stop the train as it slows down in block 8, it slows even more in block 9, and as soon as it hits block 10, boom, it stops. And it's going that slow that you won't see it judder. So I can have very accurate stopping. And I've isolated my points, so if a train was ever to stop on the points, it would tell iTrain that the points were blocked, an obstruction. So that's why I do it that way. You might want to add things in the comments below, but that's just a basic take, free fall thought on how it works. And I always isolate these tracks. So all these tracks will be joined together on one rail with your normal fish plates, but the detection tracks will be isolated with plastic fish plates. And when you come to the points, I totally isolate these points. They're all going to have plastic fish plates on where the points are. And I always put a little bit of track in after the point that can put a drop of wire on to feed it separately. And it's just what I was told to do. There is a reason behind it that I thought logically at the time. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way I'm wiring all mine in. And save a train in here. And this train wants to come down onto that line. It will then wait for that one to clear before it sets off. And vice versa, you know. If this train wants to come in here, it won't come in here until this one has reversed out and gone on its way. Or come down and reverse that way. It all makes sense, if you know what I mean. And yes, there is a learning curve, but it's all really logical once you suss it out, step by step, but don't rush. So I do hope that helps you in the basic sort of understanding of block detection. I probably left a few things out. You know how the mind is when you're thinking so many things at once, but you know, that's a basic understanding. And I think rain might have stopped playing. But anyway, let's just go back downstairs and have a look. Just one thing to add as well, whether you're using Digikeijs or Yamorc, you always want to place these units as close to the action area as possible. So those feed wires, the red and black ones, wants to be as short as possible. The LocoNet cables, they can vary in length, like the HDMI extender that I've used, like the cat cable. The LocoNet cables will carry information very fast, so you can have really long lengths of those. So it's a LocoNet cable in with a HDMI cat cable that I've got running down that conduit to the shed to transfer information back and forwards. But as I say, all the units want to be as close to the area of action as possible. That's why I've got some units near the ModelocoLift, and halfway down the track, those second two units control that area, and then the ones in the shed control the layout, the turning circle, and the second half of the house to shed run. Looking at the far left, we'll look at the DR4088LN. This is a LocoNet system. Remember, in Shiredale, the Hornby is an ExpressNet system. The Hornby system wouldn't link with these units. These units will link with iTrain. So going to the left, and the first unit here is the DR4088LN, which stands for LocoNet, and it's the GND ground detection unit, okay? And this is what indicates which shelf is in position. So you can see that I've got all those wired in. The next two down from the left are the CS units, the current sensing detection. These still need wiring in at present, and you can see the wires here. And these wires are all wired into the tracks running the first half of the run between the house and the shed. And the other detection units that I've got in the shed will take care of the second half of the run from the LocoLift to the shed. So we're getting equispacing and not too longer lengths of dropper feed wires for detection purposes. So the cable that I've used, you can see, and it's bought on eBay, it's about $14.99, and you get 100 meters. I advise you always get a spool with your wire, otherwise you can get into a bit of a tangle. So just to conclude, these two here are going to take those wires you've just seen, once I've wired them in to these units, to accommodate all the block detection feeds from the tracks on the first half of the run from the LocoLift to the shed. The second 3 units, I've put a lot of detection within the LocoLift, remembering there's 2 tracks per shelf and there's 10 tracks, that's 20 tracks. And then you've got the sidings and the 2 tracks that are going to run either side of the LocoLift itself. So they all need detection building in, and a lot of detection because I want the trains or the locomotives to stop very quickly at some points. So the more detection, the better. So these units split into 2 halves of 8 will detect 16 in total areas on your layout. So I've used a numbering system for all the wiring on the layout, and the labelling system that I'm using is just a spool of sticky labels that I found to be the most cost effective. I've mentioned them before when I've gone into laying track and things like that. Below that we can see the bus wire loose. There's 2 bus wires. There's also another bus wire coming from the tracks. So these can be just all wrapped together, so to speak, into one bus wire. And then there's a LocoNet cable hanging spare, which will daisy chain to the Digitrax DCS210 Plus command station. And as you can see, there's 3 LocoNet inputs on that, which is great because one, you might want to put a controller in, and of course your daisy chain unit from all your detection units. And you can have, as I've got, the wireless system as well to make your controller work wirelessly through infrared connection, not Bluetooth or wireless. It uses infrared and it's very reliable, it's good, and I like that. And it gives off less EMF, which is the electromagnetic field radiation. We've got the transformer for all the LED lights, and you need to work out how much current draw your LED lights are taking, because I've got a lot of lights here, and these lights are for like caravans and things like that. You can't just plug in a little AC adapter and hope it's gonna give enough current. It'll just blow it out, and I did blow a couple out testing it. This one can run all day long and light all those LEDs up and plus. So yeah, the last 3 are all wired in. The ones in the shed need wiring in, and the wires still need running down from the second half of the tracks going to the shed, from the close pole station, as I call it at the moment.
And these little tabs tell me exactly which tracks link to which. And that hook's at the back, out of the way. Once it's all wired in, I don't want to be looking at that all the time. So, and then on top of here, I can put on my Digitrax command station. I'm going to use this adapter down the side to get those untidy wires out of the way. Ignore that USB in there, it's just for audio out if I need it. But it just holds the connector in. It's for another job this computer. It does music stuff as well. I've also got to get one of these fitted in, and this is the Digitrax faceplate. It's got a little circuit board on the back where you can plug your LocoNet cables in, and a curly one for the hands-on controller. I've got a black one as well. So yeah, they've all got to be fit into this unit. Bit of a lock and key affair here just to lock it up after I've done. iTrain needs an update, and the good thing about iTrain, I've had it a few years now, and all the updates are free. With some music software especially, you find that you get charged every first or second update, but no major updates I've been charged for yet. Okay, another little thing before I hang my hat up this week. Back out into the garden for a look at these. In year 2, these springs have gone, oh no, they're all right. What I found in Peco points, especially the older ones, I don't know about Unifrog, but these Insulfrog ones, some of the points springs were made rust-free. Older ones, rusted. So they're obviously older points, so they need to come out. That one's rusted. And on this one here, this one's rusted as well. So it's interesting, isn't it, that some do and some don't. So look at this one. Yeah, that one's rusted as well. Very interesting. Didn't know that, but I do now. As you can see, there's been some wear and tear on the timber, so that's going to need another coat of varnish and a bit of stain on the front, which is another job I'm going to do. So this morning, the next thing I was going to do was get those tracks rubbed down over there, but it was pouring down with rain. It has done most of the day. It's just nicely faired up, but we've still got Shiredale. So I'll probably end with a few shots of that instead, as we're not going to have any trains running down on the ModelocoLift. And of course, all the wiring here is going to be block detected as well in Shiredale. So that's going to be the next thing on the list. Maybe. So yeah, they all need putting in, just like downstairs. And who knows, I might even be up here in Loft House, because I've got some really interesting things that I want to add onto this layout to show you, and a couple of reviews. So, of the most unlikely train I've probably ever bought. But anyway, that's another time. For now, let's get back down below. And I can't always have trains running exactly when we want, and that can add to the fun sometimes. But what we can end the show with is, if we turn the lights on, we can have a look at the new Mark IIIs I've got going round, and hopefully next time the rain might just stop. Who knows, eh? Right, that's Modeloco for all things model railway, helping you, helping me to help others. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and guess where I'm catching the train to now? Yes, down to the Bush Inn for a pint. Come rain or shine, you can still go down the Bush Inn, and I'll get this on the layout, and I'm sure the Class 43 will be chuffing past that. I couldn't resist. And support independent modelers. See you next time. Happy modelling, okay? Take care. Well, how would I describe myself? Sensitive and straight, I'd say. And I've always felt a little bit on the fringe, on the outside. You know, I'm playing Bob Dylan when people were playing Oasis. There's more to this hobby than meets the eye. And being on the fringe of things sometimes is a good thing, because you can look down on it. And people ask me a lot about which way should they go, TT 120 or 00, and I'd say go with your heart. And at first that seems a bit, what? You know, and it already knows the answer. That's what I'd say from my experience. Our head fears making the wrong decision, and if that gets to rule the roost, our ego runs wild with it too. In truth, I get a lot from both scales. Deserving both and loving ourselves can be a journey in itself, but it all helps us make the right choices, and that acceptance has to include the bits we don't like too. And the same goes for modelling. I love both TT 120 and 00 gauge, and they both present slightly different challenges and advantages over each. There is no perfect scale, but knowing what you want is crucial to finding the perfect scale for you. And as a dual scale modeller, I do accept that having both isn't always possible, and loving yourself may be too painful to face right now. That said, any decision should ultimately be yours, and we can all get led up the garden path from time to time. They say, know thyself and nothing in excess, and maintaining a healthy balance is a great approach to this hobby as well. If you like stripping things down, like locomotives, going into them and adding fine detail, weathering, scratch building, it may be well 00 for you, because there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of old stuff that you can tinker around with and make mistakes on without costing too much. If you're new to the hobby and want a great start without being bamboozled with everything that's out there, so you've got ready to run models with guaranteed latest tooling, tech and control straight out of the shiny box at this present time, and have a limited space, because it always comes down to the turning circles needed to make the return loop, of course, which decides how much space you need, unless you go for an end-to-end model, but that's stop start. It's not for everybody, and most people want to watch them trains go round. So in this case, TT could be your perfect scale,
because you can soon make expensive mistakes if you're new to this hobby or returning to it after a few years, like I did myself and like a lot of us do. A lot has changed in the last 2 years, never mind the last decade, and in an effort to cost cut and fast tracking 00 is asking for trouble, I'd say, at any stage, okay? The new TT 120 sound fitted train sets, especially the 125 with the latest additions and models and carriages added, do offer great value in that regard, as do the steam ones as well. If you really want steam, then these are great. And as new models come in, like the Princess class that's going to be added very soon, they're going to be upgraded again with die-cast bodies to make them that little bit heavier to help with going up slight inclines that you might have on your layout that you're planning. These are not 20-year-old models being sold in a new packaging. These are fully detailed models with new tooling and full detail. They are fantastic, let me tell you.